1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello there. That sort of snuck up on us today. How you doing? It's the 19th of November, just in case you're keeping track. And it's a Tuesday, and that means my sister Susan's joining us from St. Louis. Hi, Suze.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm okay, too. That loud noise you hear is our 1826 printer attempting to spew out a story about how in Ohio at a Walmart they held a holiday food drive for their own employees.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
We don't pay our employees, so would you please chip in?
No,
so
actually,
that
it was
can have the holiday?
No, it wasn't that. It was actually. I'll try to clarify. It was they set up, like big boxes, but it was in the employee area, like their rest area. And it was to help their fellow employees who might find it a little difficult at the holiday season. But it still suggests... I don't know. It didn't come. It doesn't matter. A Walmart in Canton, Ohio, set up a Thanksgiving food drive this year for some of its needier employees, and they had a sign reading, "Please donate food items so associates in need can enjoy Thanksgiving dinner." And it does bring up the issue of the fact that an astonishing percentage of Walmart employees qualify for Medicaid, food stamps, all that stuff. And this sets up, I don't know why it took me so long to figure out, Suze, but if you're a huge, rich corporation like Walmart, and you pay your employees at a rate that the taxpayers end up
subsidizing them. Then we're subsidizing Walmart, you betcha.
That's, well... How?
And guess what? And Stan Kroenke, one of the Walmart heirs, what he's doing with the money that he should be paying his employees. He buys sports teams.
Sure. They're rich as hell. I mean, they're rich as hell. They're the richest people.
It's awful.
But it is true. So I mean, if a huge
it's like The Simpsons come to life.
If a huge percentage end up on the dole, as the conservatives like to put it, because they simply can't make ends meet, even though they're working a 40-hour week.
And probably another job as well.
And maybe another job as well. But we, the people, end up having to help put food on their table and get them access to medical care, then how is that not, exactly as you put it, subsidizing one of the world's wealthiest corporations?
Well, it's exactly that, but until people do the equation.
Well, it took me a long time. And I think I'm smart. But that's a pretty...
I mean, there's a reason that, when you got your fast food workers walking out and saying, look, You got to pay me a living wage, or I'm working full time and I'm just a drain on society. This isn't right.
Right. I just, geez, it seems so easy. I mean, what my meager little head finally figured out in that regard, that little circle. Walmart doesn't pay its employees enough, and consequently they go on food stamps, which is my tax money, and they go on Medicaid, which is my tax money, and that means that I am subsidizing Walmart. When Walmart is perfectly capable, if they just change their business model a little bit and maybe don't buy one sports team that they had their eyes set on, or a painting that they wanted, that all of that, all those people could be off food stamps, off Medicaid, and would have money to help spur the economy and all that. Are we out of our cotton picking minds?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, that's what I thought.
Nice reference. I mean, because we are, we're making such a permanent underclass of people that are demonstrating everything about what we want out of Americans. They are working their butts off. They're trying to stand up on their own 2 feet, and all they have is, people deriding them and acting as if they're takers.
It's amazing. And it's amazing how many Americans buy into that. I was just reading for my amusement about the Toronto mayor on the way in. What a train wreck that one is. And
well, they got to fix their laws about how
whether
they
will.
You can remove someone like this from office.
Well, they will, but they can't do it while he's in, because I'm sure that's not constitutional.
That's sort of ex post facto here.
So he is gonna be able, unless somebody is able to talk to him or force him, or they bring if they can get him on some criminal conviction and get him out or something. That's just amazing. But I was reading about how he got elected in the first place, and he was elected, by
in a surge of pro automobile suburbanites.
Correct. Outrage, though, was another adjective, Susan. It's that classic picture of outraged people in the suburbs feeling that the people in the city are somehow taking things from them. It's the same thing, so it's up there too in Canada. Same thing. And this was their white knight. Yeah. I guess Toronto is a very progressive city, actually, at least had been until he was elected. And obviously, in Toronto, if the suburbanites can put in a mayor, then the mayor is mayor of more than the city, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
it's very interesting because it highlights an issue.
Metropolitanism.
Well, but also in St. Louis, the city of St. Louis is its own county, and St. Louis County, made up of a bunch of little cities, surrounds it, and which is one of the things that's made St. Louis hard to stay alive, because the wealth just keeps moving west,
farther out.
Right, and they are again discussing putting them together, but it has all these unintended consequences.
Well, it makes me.
It makes together.
It just all of a sudden it gives me pause. I've always argued that Pittsburgh, which is not the same, Philadelphia is, but Pittsburgh is not. The city is in fact quite small geographically and in population. But there's often calls for, taking all these little bailiwicks. We have about 500 million of them around here, with all the redundancy of services, and obviously creating one big Pittsburgh.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
But it just occurred to me.
Do you really want that?
No, here's why. Because then all those angry, red-faced suburbanites are going to elect Pittsburgh's mayor.
No, in a lot of cases, it's really almost better to let, people move to where they feel comfortable. And then they govern accordingly.
Comfortable. Jesus. All right. Okay. Let's get on a nicer topic.
Yeah. Well, good luck.
Listen. I got one.
Okay.
One. It involves sex. And
did you that book?
No. Oh, we'll get to that in a minute because I'm not sure what you're talking about. We have this is sea slug sex. The last time we talked about sex and beings in the sea, we were talking about what? Barnacles?
Yes.
And that got very interesting since we learned that barnacles have the largest penises in terms of their body size of any living being.
And you thought they were just attaching themselves to the bottom of your boat.
Yeah. Well, because it is exactly because they are attached that their penis has to go wandering.
Right.
So that's because otherwise, the penis gets to go out to the singles bar, and then if it finds something, it comes back. So because the barnacle's stuck, it's true. So sea slug sex and violence. So you have it all here, sex and violence. This is what draws Americans. And, of course, I'm an American, and that headline drew me, sex and violence. Researchers have now identified here we go again, a hermaphroditic sea slug that lives in the Great Barrier Reef.
And beats himself up?
No, but he or she uses its phallus to stab its partner in the forehead. Oh, that sounds like fun. After copulation. Hey, baby. Want it? Several other organisms are known to jab their mates with an appendage after coitus. Oh, excuse me. I should know. Jess looked at me like, you don't know how to pronounce that word? I guess I've never said it out loud.
Forgotten.
Or I forgot. I never said it out loud. Coitus. Okay. Several others jab after coitus, and in fact, some of you may. But
Shazam!
But the slugs in question are believed to be the first animals known, and here's the distinction, known to aim specifically for the head. That's all I have. But then there are those insects that mate and then the female bites off the male's head. Right?
Do you blame her?
No. But what's in it for the poor guy? He dies happy. He has one. I don't understand that stuff. I really don't. Poor
He
things.
doesn't. No one's lived to warn him.
Well, I guess that might be it. You can't. Fathers can't pass that on to their sons. Son, beware. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's it.
So
Sorry.
you want to know what I was talking about?
Oh, yeah, you said a sex book? Which book?
Well, it's an ancient Chinese novel.
Ancient
The
Chinese
Plum
novel.
in the Golden Vase.
And it's really pornographic?
It's infamously pornographic.
It's called what? The Plum in the...
The Plum of the Golden Vase. And there's a guy, David Todd Roy, who was the child of missionaries in China, and he went on a mission to find this book. He wanted to read it. And it became his life's work.
Oh, God.
He has made a meticulous translation, including all the notes, because it's an absolutely precise discussion of everything about the way of life in China at that time.
What is the time? Do you have a sense of how long ago?
The time is, it was written by an anonymous author in the late 16th century.
16th century.
16th.
Okay. And did you read any excerpts or something?
Well, no, but it's summed up as Jane Austen meets hardcore pornography.
Ooh. Well.
It's 5 volumes. It's nearly 3,000 pages, 800 named characters.
Wow.
And he added like 4,400 endnotes, to discussing everything that was going on there.
But it wasn't a novel about sex. It was a novel set in that time, but showing a rather frisky kind of sexual reality.
But they say the level of raunch remains startling even to some Western literacy
though,
scholars.
Susan, stop and think. That's the same. I mean, I'm thinking of Chaucer. Okay, that's even it's a sort of around the same era, right? Chaucer's maybe 100 years earlier. But, I remember our brother reading some Chaucer to us that is like, what? I mean, that's really...
Well, as close as you get to what's going on in there is when I taught it, my students were flabbergasted, even though they knew about the novel's reputation, says Patricia Seiber, a professor of Chinese literature at Ohio State. And then she goes on to say S&M, the use of unusual objects as sex toys, excessive use of aphrodisiacs, sex under all kinds of nefarious circumstances, you name it, it's all there.
Well, so why would we be surprised? I mean, like we think we invented it?
Nope.
All this stuff? No, absolutely not. I mean, and since there was then less, there were fewer. I almost didn't use few. There were fewer opportunities for enjoyment. There wasn't television, stuff like that.
Right.
So sexual pleasure was like even more of a. I guess there wasn't as much to distract yourself. So sex was it, I guess.
Right, but it was just also a culture that fostered concubines and
foot binding
and all sorts of terrible things. Right, but anyway, apparently it sounds fascinating. And what they're talking about is that it's really, I mean, the pornography aside, it's if you give it a political reading, it's very, very interesting.
Right, and
historical about the corruption and
right,
and not a whole lot has changed.
No, because the one thing that's in common, whether it's again, is human nature.
Right.
I mean, if you were to come upon a novel written by a sea slug 1,000 years ago, it'd be the same as if a sea slug did a novel with sex in it today.
Right.
Same thing.
Then they'd lead up to that part where you strike your mate in the forehead.
With your phallus?
Whap!
It sounds like it kills you. It sounds like it goes right through. I don't know. I thought it was...
Well, it can't possibly, because how then does it fertilize an egg that is then bred?
No, they do the copulating, and then they... I don't know. And,
It's a good thing we don't need to.
No, we do not need to delve further into the sexual proclivities of sea slugs. Hermaphroditic sea slugs, because I don't know if they all are. All right, so, Suze, I got to talk about two things I have seen in the last 24 hours or so.
Okay.
I guess I'll start with the one I know you've seen. 12 Years a Slave.
Yes.
Oh, my God. After that movie was done, I was paralyzed. I was numb. And as far as I could tell, everybody else in the theater was too. Nobody moved. Nobody said anything. There was just, it's like people couldn't even get out of their seats.
Well, good.
I walked out of there finally, and I was in a daze, and I couldn't really function for a long time. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't get any of it out of my head. And I have to tell you that I think what's so powerful about that movie is that we've all seen depictions of slavery in the United States, right?
Sure.
We've seen gazillions. I have never seen a depiction in which I personally identified so strongly with the character, because it seems to me the way the brilliance of it is, it starts out with him, he's
being you.
He's me. He's
right.
He's living
a successful free man
living in the United States with friends and family, and happy and
who interacts interracially all the time.
Yeah. And then you feel the more than ever that I have what it would be to be deprived of your liberty in such a... how do you even describe the horror, the hell? How do you... You know what I started thinking later last night? If I ruled the world, every American should have to watch that movie.
Well, now you understand my horror when that couple stood up and walked out.
Yeah, Susan told me that when she saw it, a couple walked out of it. Well, and we're assuming they walked out because they couldn't take it, right? Is that what we're assuming?
They didn't want to take it. I figure, to me, I thought the least we can do is take it.
Yeah, we ain't living it.
The least we can do is inform ourselves and stop living in a era world.
Right. We're just sort of superficially witnessing a depiction of it for 2 hours. We aren't living our lives out in what has to be the most... I want anybody who for a minute utters anything like, well, the slaves really, it wasn't as bad as... Whatever. I just want people to comprehend, to be able to walk in those shoes. You can't. You cannot even... It is so beyond our powers to even imagine, even when it's right there in front of you, and you know what you're seeing is historically correct. But Susan, what the one guy says, there's a white guy in it who was an overseer, who says that you cannot do to the slaves what we do and not have it poison your soul.
Right.
Right? But so here's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if that poisoning, generation after generation after generation after generation in the United States, mostly in the South, if it
turned into mutant ignorance,
if it's somehow still,
oh sure, I do think
we don't escape it, and it's like
no, that's
descendants of the slaves can't escape it, and the descendants of the slave owners can't escape it, and those who stood and simply lived amongst it can't escape it. This is a horror so beyond the comprehension of any humane being. And yet there are Americans, and there are states still, right, that fly the battle flag of the Confederacy, that speak wistfully of those days.
That pretend like it was an issue of states' rights.
Oh, my God.
You know, anybody that says that should have to sit and watch this movie.
About 500
because
times.
This is the right you were asking for.
I got to tell you, this is as powerful a film as I've ever seen. And it is difficult. And
it's difficult, but it's also, I mean, it's really an incredible piece of filmmaking. It's really extraordinarily well done in every way.
In every way. In every way. Please go see it. Obviously, no, you are not going to have a good time.
It's not a funny movie.
But this is something...
And I will admit that I closed my eyes a couple of times.
I don't think I did. Oh, God. I mean, I think it changed me. I don't feel like I'm the same. I don't feel like I can ever be the same. That's how powerful it is. Please see it, even though I know a lot of people say, well, I don't need to see it. I mean, I know the horror of slavery. No, you don't know the horror of slavery, and you never will. And even after seeing this movie, you don't know the horror of slavery. You get a little bit clear. This makes like Roots look like, I don't know, Mary Poppins.
Right. And it is a true story. It is truly based on this man's life and his diaries and his writings. There's a question as to whether it's an as told to, but I don't think so. He was a literate man. I think this is his writing.
Well, again, we don't know, but we do know historically that what happened to him happened to a lot of free blacks.
And contemporaneously verified.
Right. Beyond bearing. I don't know. And to think that churches and to think that they preach the Bible, these demons, these white demons to these, oh my God.
As they copulated with the women and beat them.
It's just beyond belief. And maybe it took, the director is not an American. Maybe Americans just can't, I don't know.
Can't tell this story.
Maybe. Please see it. Okay. Oh gosh. We got to get a break in. Okay, and then when we come back, I want to tell you about something else that I've seen, which I think is still running, and is in many ways a marvel as well. And I still can't quite get that one out of my head. So my head is just
jam-packed today.
Oh man, it's a mess. There is so much going on in there, and such a sense that wow. I can almost hardly bear knowledge sometimes. I can hardly bear it because I have trouble processing it. But you got to keep trying, I think. Okay, we'll be right back after this.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
The traditional light bulb, a groundbreaking invention in 1879. It's time we switch to longer-lasting Energy Star light bulbs. They're more efficient than the old bulbs, like a text message is more efficient than a carrier pigeon, and they cut down on our energy costs. Because in our own groundbreaking age, we deserve a light bulb that saves us some cash. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
Just in time for the holidays, Little's Shoes is your UGG headquarters. Little's has the largest selection of UGGs for men, women, and children to stay warm with shearling-lined boots, shoes, and slippers. Don't forget to get your hats, gloves, scarves, and more. Bring the entire family to view one of the largest in-store UGG shops in the U.S. All available at Little's Shoes, Pittsburgh's largest family shoe store. Forbes Avenue in Squirrel Hill or littleshoes.com.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Okay, so this is something that's running on HBO, and you can see it, I'm sure. And there was the Valley Girl thing. Did you hear it, Suze? And you can see it, I'm sure. Okay, I'll stop doing that. And it's Mike Tyson's one-man.
Oh, I was just reading about that.
You're hearing yourself sound like you're from Wisconsin?
Yeah, it gets worse and worse. Go ahead.
Okay, well,
I was just reading about it, and you watched it, huh?
I did. And he also has a book that's out.
Yeah, I was reading about the book.
Yeah,
Right.
well, I read about the book as well today, but this is, it's an hour, and I recommend it. It's, whatever you think of Mike Tyson, and I don't know what you think of Mike Tyson, a train wreck of a human being. But boy, is he a complex
And smart. I mean, smart.
Smart. He's smart. I think maybe that's the thing that blows you away the most. He's not only smart, he's funny. In his one-man show, he's loose, he dances, he makes fun of the fact that he's sometimes hard to understand because he has that lisp. He is alternately sort of defensive and whatever. He tells his side of the story and his side of trying to come to terms with who he's been and who he is. And if your heart doesn't feel for this guy after watching him, then you're cold. He's a fascinating character. Fascinating. So I recommend that as well. From the piece that Susan's talking about, there's a review of a book that has come out now. But
that they do mention could have done with a little editing.
Yes, I'm sure. And believe me, there are parts when you watch this thing, there are parts that are so painful and so like, oh God, please. But his favorite book, you know what his favorite book is? And believe me, after you watch this thing, you see that, of course, why not? His favorite book is The World's Greatest Letters from Ancient Greece to the 20th Century.
Oh, that's right.
And he reads there, he says he has cried over some of these letters. He's cried over letters written by Napoleon and the German dramatist Heinrich von Kleist as they wrote to their loved ones. And when you see him talking about himself, you absolutely believe it. He's a remarkable human being in many ways. Troubled as hell, still fighting to sort of stay on the straight and narrow he's managed to get himself on.
Well, he had to undo a hell of a lot of stuff. It's rather remarkable. I mean, as you were saying, it's really remarkable
that he is where he is now.
The complex guy that he is.
I know. Now, he also, this is classic too, he was bullied as a child. You know, he had his pigeons. He kept pigeons. He loved his pigeons. His pigeons gave him a great deal of comfort when he was young. And here's part of what he writes is, a kid named Gary stole one of my pigeons, and he twisted the head off and threw it at me, smearing the blood all over my face and shirt. And he says he lived, it doesn't matter that he is looked at as this, you know, huge monster of a person. But inside he is really that terrified kid. Isn't that classic, right? The terrified kid who doesn't want to get picked on. So there's a softness to him, and there's a rage to him, but there's a sensitivity and a sweetness and a humor that you wouldn't have expected.
Yeah.
I mean, he says things like in the book, I was Clovis, I was Charlemagne, I was one mean son of a bitch. Now, the one mean son of a bitch, I'd expect him maybe to say, but I was Clovis? I was Charlemagne? I mean, those kinds of...
Right, references. I agree. I mean, you read about this guy and you go, well, he was in prison for a long time. He must have been reading.
Well, you know who else was
I mean, we can all agree that's a self-educated man.
Right. But that doesn't make you a good man. You know, I'm thinking of another man who spent a lot of time in prison and read and is also sort of astonishingly erudite. And that is a guy that he talks about in this one-man show and in his book, and who he despises. And that is boxing promoter Don King.
Right.
He of the hair. And he goes after him in the show. And boy, does he do a job on Robin Givens, his first wife. And you know what? You believe him. I'm sorry. I'm going to take his side. I'll take his side. And he also says that he did not rape that woman. I don't know. Who the hell knows? Guess what? When he went to the tattoo guy to have the tattoo on his face.
This one I love.
But this is it in a nutshell. There it is. He walked into that tattoo shop with an idea of what he wanted on his face. And Susan, I'll let you say it.
He wanted little hearts all over his face.
That's what he wanted. That's what he had imagined. He just wanted to have little hearts all over his face. And the tattoo artist looks at this galoot and he says, are you sure? I don't think. And he talked him into instead doing that sort of fierce Maori warrior thing, which I now see beyond. I used to, not be, how can somebody do that to themselves? But in a way, it's, whatever. And what he says in the show about his face is he says, it's my face. Get over it. He doesn't.
Right.
Yeah. I can do what I want. But I have to tell you, this is worth, I'm not saying read the book, I don't know. If you got HBO, check that out. It's 1 hour, and it is, I think I watched the thing with my mouth hanging open half the time.
Well, thanks for the tip, because I'm always looking for something other than Love It or List It.
Love It or What It?
Oh, you don't watch HGTV?
Good God, no. Suze.
What?
Love It or List It?
Oh, yeah.
Meaning love your house or put it on the market?
Yeah, it's a competition between a real estate broker and a designer/contractor.
Oh, man.
One makes over your house while the other one tries to get you to sell it.
Jeez. Okay. All right, so here's something interesting. A little knowledge is a dangerous thing. I happened to see this that I'm about to share with you on Saturday afternoon. And that evening, I was invited to a friend's house for dinner. And it was a wonderful dinner. Chicken marsala and these unbelievably good roasted veggies that were like roasted to almost caramelized. Oh, God, it was so delicious. But as I saw what was on my plate, I thought, uh-oh. Now, I did eat it. But listen to this. The Food and Drug Administration says that consumers should avoid frying, baking, or roasting plant-based foods, such as potatoes or root vegetables, to a very dark brown.
Why? Cancer?
Yeah, of course, something. But I'm thinking, well, why would you bother roasting them if you weren't going to do it to a very dark brown?
The whole point to roasting a potato is to get it crispy and delicious.
Crispy. Exactly. Because
that's like my favorite potato is
I know.
Well,
then just forget
potato.
I even said it. And then I'll go, I hate these things. I hate when they put these kinds of things in the paper. Because they said there's possible risk. Now, I focus on the possible risk from a chemical linked in high doses to cancer in animals. Okay, so let's look at that. Possible risk, chemical linked in high doses to cancer in animals. Okay, fine. Not until they do some kind of a study where they force feed
they said the
French
same
fries.
thing about the char on barbecue.
Well, but they still do. That's still true. But there's nothing better than a char-grilled steak and roasted, brown veggies.
That's right.
But they're trying to take all our pleasure away. The agency, this is the FDA, is also recommending steps for food makers when cooking food such as French fries. It's a chemical called acrylamide, which is used in plastics and industrial products. But it does show up in food that's just, regular food. Its effect in humans is uncertain. The FDA said it was advisable, though, to cut back. The agency said skipping French fries and other fried foods, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I'm going to give you a guy who is a chef. He's also a physician.
How many?
That's right. Susan, he's going to say it. John LaPuma. He says this. People who try to caramelize onions ought to be praised, not criticized. The amount of acrylamide you need to cause cancer in people is, I'm sure, astronomical, and this issue is, pun intended, small potatoes.
Exactly.
But why does the FDA do that?
I don't know, but for example, how many times a week do you either roast or caramelize your vegetables?
I'm not even once necessarily.
That's right. Okay, not even once. How many times do you fry your own French fries?
Never.
When's the last time you made a grilled cheese sandwich?
It's been a while.
Okay, there you go. I don't think you're at any risk.
But I order French fries out.
That's fine. I order them out all the time, too, and they bring me a big plate of them, and I usually eat 4 or 5, and that's enough, and that's it.
Well, Susan, I eat all of them.
I know you do.
And then I go looking for more.
We have different food disorders.
Jeez. So anyway, why do they do this?
Why do you read it? Did you read the article about how as we get older we can't metabolize alcohol as well.
Yeah, and
I could
said,
have told him that.
Right, I did see that today. It said as soon as
I ratcheted down all by myself as I found myself getting sick, on what previously was something that was a no big deal, and then, you learn. I can't do that anymore. I can't do that anymore.
They said as soon as you hit 40,
I can still drink copious
right.
amounts of wine. That's about it.
I can drink wine. I thought.
But I used to drink, a couple of vodkas and then wine.
And you can't do that anymore.
I can't. I don't even touch hard liquor.
Did you see? I know the article you're talking about. You're talking about an article. Was that in the New York Times or Wall Street Journal today? And it talked about how at the age of 40, your body just does not metabolize and deal with.
Your liver isn't working.
Your liver
as well.
just can't do it. Alcohol. So as well. So, what the hell was I going to say? Shoot! God, I hate that. God, I hate that.
Oh, it flew right by, and you could just see the tail wagging. Don't you hate that?
Dang it.
It'll fly back again in a couple of minutes, too, just to tease you.
All right, well, fine. Let's take a break and see if it doesn't fly back in the interim. Not that I suppose it was earth-shattering, but we'll see.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
Go to the all-new bergbargains.com for great deals on gift cards from your favorite local restaurants, bars, museums, attractions, and shows. Log on now for great deals from Ibiza, Atria's, Monticello's, the Pittsburgh Opera, and City Theater. The all-new bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains, bergbargains.com.
Download the CP Haps app to find out what's happening in Pittsburgh. It's the fun and free app that puts the most popular events at your fingertips. Text events to 77948 to download now. Available on the App Store and Google Play. Brought to you by Pittsburgh City Paper.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
I remembered it immediately.
Yeah.
This article also said the definition of a regular drinker.
I know. Was 12 drinks in a year.
No, I don't think it was 4. Was it 4? I thought it was.
Susan,
it was 12
drinks in a year.
Oh, I thought you said 4. It was a regular drinker. Somebody who they would qualify as a regular drinker is somebody who has 12 drinks in a year.
You mean a week?
Just
These scientists have to get out more.
I thought, well, who the hell doesn't have 12 drinks a year?
The only people that don't have 12 drinks in a year
are recovering
don't
alcoholics.
Drink.
They don't drink at all. Well, how? Jeez.
Of course, that might be like Tea Party people thinking everybody agrees with them.
Well, I just got to tell you.
We're just hanging out with people that drink
obviously,
like we do. There's plenty of people that don't
drink like we. Yeah, we are part of a drinking culture.
We're a skewed sample.
But Jess reacted the same. Jess, you and me. We said, what? How is 12? I would call anyone who drinks 1 drink a month. I would call.
Is not a regular drinker.
No.
That's an irregular drinker.
That's somebody who I would almost say doesn't drink.
And that's why every time they do drink, they get drunk. They have no tolerance.
Jeez.
You got to work on this. It's like smoking. I mean, do you remember how hard you had to work to every time I quit smoking and then I would go back to smoking, and I couldn't believe how hard I was working to get back into a bad habit. Because it makes you sick, You really have to try.
Yeah. Here's an interesting email from PJ. That tattoo artist that talked Mike Tyson out of getting the tattoos of hearts on his face as he had wished should be sued for artistic malpractice. Mike Tyson went from getting a tattoo that showed the complexity of his personality, as described by you, to getting a cliche emblazed on his face because the so-called artist couldn't look deeper into the concept of a tattoo. Disbar that artist now. That's an interesting
Well, I think actually that's correct. I mean, especially when Tyson's response to people talking about his face is, "It's my face," and the answer is no, it was the artist's canvas.
Huh. Oh, no, Ansel, I don't think I want to tell her that.
What? That my voice sounds like what?
Don't get so... See how insecure we all
I am.
are?
I'm insecure.
We all are, Suze. Who would think Mike Tyson was insecure? Okay, Lynn, please tell Susan that there is now a love it or list it to.
I know.
Oh, she knows.
What? He thinks I don't know.
And the woman who's the designer in this newer version, much easier to stomach than the woman in the original, I absolutely cannot stand. My wife calls the show overpromise, underdeliver. But we both love it. No account.
Well, they do have that as the format.
Right. There's no accounting for people's taste. Okay.
Hey, I stopped watching Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, well, who can? You finally did. I don't either. I can't watch that.
Oh, this year was just too much for me.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know if you saw this, but this just blew me away. All right, I'm going to introduce you to a woman named Jen Palmer, who we're going to have to go back about 5 years. She, her husband had ordered her a Christmas gift from a online place called cleargear.com. Anyway, it never arrived. And so she, and they had done the PayPal way of paying. And so because the order never shipped, within 30 days, the PayPal transaction was automatically canceled. So it's not like they didn't pay for it. She didn't have it. They didn't pay for it. But she, I guess, took the time to go to another website called ripoffreport.com and put a review of Clear Gear on it, which said this. She said, here is what I wrote to the company's customer service. A company like yours, while catering to geeks, should first and foremost understand that while electronic communication is nice, there are inevitably times that human contact is necessary. At this point, the only thing I can determine is that your customer service department, in fact, your whole company, is so busy returning voicemails from disgruntled customers that they're unable to take live calls of any kind. Anyway, she just went on. She was really all over him. That efforts to find the thing, she couldn't get through, that there was no blah, 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 blah. So she ripped him on this website, which is for that, called ripoffreport.com. Now, that was in 2008. 3 years later, her husband gets a letter. Actually, it's an email, I guess, saying that his wife had violated a non-disparagement agreement hidden within the terms of sale on the company's website. Clear Gear, the company that didn't send her what had been ordered. And here's what, you never read that stuff, right?
No, and just look at what they're doing to her.
And listen to this. This is the most unbelievable, ridiculous business crap you've ever heard in your life. Here's what she hadn't seen. In an effort to ensure fair and honest public feedback, and to prevent the publishing of libelous content in any form, your acceptance of this sales contract prohibits you from taking any action that negatively impacts Clear Gear, its reputation, products, service, management, or employees.
And while I would argue that
that's ridiculous.
She's got such a case, but she doesn't have the money to fight it.
No, and that's the point. So you can't say, in an effort to make sure that
wait a minute. Tell them what they did.
Okay, but I just want to say, can you imagine a company saying, in an effort, because we, and I'm sure you'll agree, we want honest public feedback, you are not allowed to say anything negative about us.
You are not allowed to say anything negative, right?
What?
And they think that they have a right to take away your honest
here's what she's
appraisal.
Yeah. So they told her husband, you either take that down, get that off that website, or we're fining you $3,500.
And ruining your credit report.
And we will send this on to credit companies, and we will do you in. So Mr. Palmer goes berserk and frantically gets in touch with the website, the Rip-Off Report website, and says, I got to get that thing off. My wife put it on 3 years ago, but you got to get that off. And they said, well, I'm sorry, sir, we don't.
That'll be $2,000.
That'll be $2,000 to remove the posting.
It's like the same guy probably owns both sites.
So you either give us $2,000 or give them $3,500 and ruin your credit rating. But these people did not have the money to do any of that. So they were fined. They didn't pay it. Their credit report went south, and they can't afford a lawyer. But Susan, no company has the right. Well, so how do they get redress?
Well, because they bank on this person not being able to fight it, and they also bank on her telling this story so that nobody else will do it. I mean, the Better Business Bureau has a gazillion complaints about this company. And really, I would think that there would be an attorney out there that would take this on a contingency basis, because it's a slap suit, because it's a blatantly unconstitutional thing, and besides which, they even state that the reason to do it is to keep things honest and to avoid slander. And all she has to say is, this is honest, and this was not slander.
Right, exactly.
And you may not take away my First Amendment rights.
Exactly.
Period.
I could win this case. I mean, it's ridiculous. Just because you, the company, put some idiotic thing
like that. But what I'm
that.
saying is, I can't imagine that there isn't an attorney out there that wouldn't do this on a contingency, because when a company acts this outrageously and this maliciously, then that I would think would qualify for some pretty, good.
Speaking of a fine,
of their own against them. You know, you get treble damages when you fool around with this sort of stuff. And if they are purposefully going after someone's credit rating and posting essentially false stuff themselves by creating a debt and then declaring it, bad.
It's unbelievable.
No, I mean, I would imagine that there would be money for an attorney to take this on a contingency basis, and I would hope that someone would call her.
Well, now that they've gotten some publicity, I would hope somebody would.
Yeah.
But guys, steer clear of something called cleargear.com. That's cleargear.com. Good God. Okay, now to the sports page. New York Times today. Headline, quitting the NFL. This is interesting, and I'm on record as saying football as currently constituted ain't going to exist. We now have this guy. This is the first player that I'm aware of who was on a roster. As a matter of fact, he's on the Denver.
Well, he's the second guy this year.
But not for that reason, is it? The first guy, here's a guy, he's a lineman, and he called up John Elway, who signed his checks, and he said, it's just not, the money's not worth my life anymore. I'm not coming back. I'm gone. His name is...
He gave up the balance of this year's pay, which was $675,000. He gave up next year's pay, which was at least $250,000. And good for him. He said anybody that's looking at this in terms of money they're
out of their minds. So his name is John Moffitt. He's considered he's not a great player. He wasn't first string. But even so, he'd spent, his He played in high school. He played in college at Wisconsin. He got drafted. He played for Seattle, and then he got shipped over to Denver. And he says that, he was. It says here? Wait, I'm sorry. In the 3 seasons as a guard, he has blown out his knee. He's had elbow surgery. He's hurt his shoulders. He has developed sleep apnea. He has floaters across his vision from all the hits to the head. And he just said, I just don't want to anymore, and he hasn't played anywhere near as much as so many players do. And here's what he says about the NFL, how he perceives it now. He says, let's be honest. The NFL merchandises human beings. Well, yeah, but so does entertainment does. I mean, that, you're a commodity. That's right. When you're but he was never going to be he wasn't getting $1 million salaries. And he doesn't even know what he's going to do now. But he doesn't. He sees what's happening. So with this knowledge, I got a feeling you're going to see more and more and more of this.
I think so, too. And I think that it's when it becomes less, wrong to just own up to this and say, I'm looking around me. How stupid do you have to be? There are other ways to make a living.
Right. And I mean, and if you want to be
why do I want to die?
Well, he's saying, I mean, if your desire to be a millionaire is so intense that you're willing to shorten your life or shorten the quality, totally affect the quality of your life. I think for a young man, he's 27. That's pretty amazing to make that calculation, because I when you're that age, I don't know. And it's not like it happens to everyone. I was looking at a picture today in our local paper, Susan, of 2 of the Steelers from the 70s who were at some charity event, Andy Russell and Rocky Blyer from Appleton, by the way. And they look marvelous. I know they've had good careers outside of football, and they're easily my age. And so they seem okay. But
well, how do you know?
Well, that's true, too. How do I know?
I mean, I just remember Mother talking about the old Packers hobbling around the golf course.
Right.
And that they were all hobbling.
They were in such
pain.
Most
of them could barely move.
Right. But so he walked away from about $1 million in salary, benefits for retirees who play at least 3. He even walked away from his pension. If he
walked away from his pension.
If he had hung on, now some people might say, you're nuts. You could have hung on, and also they're saying, you're nuts. You're playing for what might be the best team in football right now, the 9-1 Broncos. You're there guarding Peyton Manning. You could go to the Super Bowl. Just finish this year. And he's adamant. He said, I couldn't, I don't wanna, and he quit.
You don't get it. It's not worth it.
And he says everybody's telling me, he says all he gets from people is they think I'm crazy. And he said that's says a lot. I'm crazy.
Right. I'm crazy because I won't sell my life for $1 million.
Huh. Well, so anyway, that's an ongoing story, and every time a player quits, you can bet I'll mention it. And this is somebody who, I have to say, spent a lot of time this weekend watching football. There's a lot of us now who watch and are very aware of what it is we're watching. So it's eventually, I suppose, I'll stop. I suppose. Susan, think of what it'll do to Green Bay.
Yeah, I know. It'd be terrible.
Okay, I got to go. We got to go. It's late.
Okay, bye.
Late. Thank you very much, Susan.
Bye.
Bye. And you guys coming up tomorrow. You loved him the first time, and he's coming back because I aim to please, yes, the guy behind Daily News Nugget, CMU, professor of history, Jared Day, comes into the studio tomorrow, and we'll talk what's happening in the world. Okay? Toodaloo.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.